I never imagined I would be sharing this story, but I cannot stop thinking about it. Even now, months later, the memory lingers, and I cannot shake the feeling that I was dangerously close to something I never saw coming. At first, I thought my dog Max was acting out. He had always been protective, but lately, his behavior had become strange. Restless pacing, low growls, and an almost desperate need to stay by my side. I thought he was just being clingy, or maybe even jealous of my boyfriend. But the truth was something I never expected. I have had Max for 5 years now. He is a German Shepherd, strong, intelligent, and fiercely loyal. I adopted him when he was just a puppy, and since then, we have been inseparable. He has always had a protective streak, but I never really thought much of it. He would bark at the mailman, get anxious when strangers came too close to me, and sleep outside my bedroom door every night. It was just Max being Max. Then a few months ago, I started dating Ethan. Ethan was charming, thoughtful, and everything I thought I wanted in a partner. We met at a friend's gathering, and from the very first conversation, he had this way of making me feel like the only person in the room. It did not take long for us to become serious. He started staying over more often, and I was beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, he was the one. But Max did not approve. From the moment Ethan entered my life, Max's behavior changed. He growled whenever Ethan got too close to me. He sat between us on the couch, refused to leave my side when Ethan was around, and sometimes even bared his teeth when Ethan tried to pet him. It was embarrassing. Ethan would laugh it off, saying, "Looks like someone is jealous," but I could tell he was annoyed. I tried everything to get Max to warm up to him. I had Ethan give him treats, take him on walks, and even play with his favorite toys. Nothing worked. Max remained tense, watching Ethan with wary eyes, his body rigid every time he was in the room. I brushed it off as jealousy. Maybe Max was just not used to sharing my attention. Maybe he would get over it with time. But as the weeks passed, his behavior only got worse. He would pace outside my bedroom door at night whenever Ethan stayed over, whining softly. Sometimes, I would wake up to find Max standing at the foot of my bed, staring at Ethan with an intensity that unsettled me. Ethan, on the other hand, was patient but firm. He would sigh and say, "I do not know why he hates me so much, but he is going to have to get used to me." I agreed. I loved Max, but I also cared about Ethan. I wanted them to get along. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to find Ethan already there, waiting for me with dinner. He had a key to my apartment now, something I had given him just a week earlier. I was touched by the gesture, but as I stepped inside, Max immediately blocked my path, his ears flat, his tail stiff. He let out a low, warning growl. "Max, stop it," I scolded. "It is just Ethan." But Max did not budge. His eyes locked onto Ethan, his body tense like he was ready to attack. Ethan sighed and stepped forward, holding out his hand. "Come on, buddy, it is just me." Max lunged. I screamed as I grabbed his collar, barely holding him back. His teeth snapped inches from Ethan's outstretched hand, and for the first time, I saw real fear on Ethan's face. "What the hell is wrong with him?" Ethan shouted, stepping back. "This is crazy. He almost bit me." I was shaking. Max had never done anything like that before. He was protective, sure, but he had never attacked anyone. My heart pounded as I struggled to pull him away, his body still trembling with rage. Ethan ran a frustrated hand through his hair. "This is not normal, my name. You need to do something about him." I nodded, my mind racing. Maybe I needed to get Max trained. Maybe something was triggering his aggression. But as I looked down at him, his ears still pinned back, his body pressed against my legs like he was shielding me, I could not shake the feeling that there was something I was missing. That night, Max refused to let Ethan into my bedroom. He planted himself at the door, growling whenever Ethan tried to step inside. Frustrated, Ethan grabbed his things and left, mumbling that we needed to talk about the dog situation. As soon as the door closed behind him, Max let out a soft whimper and pressed his head against my leg, his entire body still tense. I ran my fingers through his fur, trying to calm him down. "Why are you acting like this?" I whispered. He looked up at me with those deep, knowing eyes. And for the first time, a small, chilling thought crept into my mind. What if Max was not jealous? What if he was trying to protect me? The next morning, I woke up feeling drained. Ethan had not texted me since he left the night before. And honestly, I was too exhausted to reach out first. The whole situation with Max was stressing me out, and I needed time to think. Max was curled up on the floor next to my bed, his ears twitching as soon as I moved. He had been restless all night, getting up to pace the apartment every so often before returning to my side. I reached down to scratch behind his ears, and he let out a soft sigh, pressing closer to me. I do not know what to do with you, I murmured. You cannot keep acting like this. Ethan is not a bad guy. Max's ears flicked, but he did not move. A part of me felt guilty. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this was just a case of an overprotective dog who did not like sharing me. I decided that I needed to talk to Ethan, clear the air, and figure out a way to make this work. Later that day, I sent him a message. Hey, can we talk? I think we need to figure out what to do about Max. I watched the 3 dots appear, then disappear. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Ethan. Yeah, we should. Come over tonight. I hesitated. After last night, part of me felt weird about going to his place, but I shook off the feeling. This was Ethan. He was my boyfriend. Max had just gotten into my head. Okay, I will be there after work. That evening, as I was getting ready to leave, Max started acting up again. He paced back and forth near the door. His ears perked up, his body tense. When I picked up my keys, he whined and sat in front of the door, blocking my way. Max, come on, I sighed. I need to go. He refused to move. His eyes were locked on mine, and there was something in them that made me pause. It was not just his usual protective look, it was fear. A shiver ran down my spine. It is fine, I reassured him, kneeling down to rub his head. I will be back soon. He did not believe me. I could see it in his face. I sighed, grabbed his leash, and clipped it onto his collar. Fine. You are coming with me. The entire drive to Ethan's apartment, Max sat rigid in the passenger seat, his ears flicking at every little noise. When we arrived, I parked outside the complex and glanced at him. You are being weird, I muttered. Try to be nice, okay? He did not move. Taking a deep breath, I got out of the car and led Max toward the building. The closer we got, the more anxious he became. He started pulling back on the leash, whining softly. Max, stop, I whispered, feeling my own nerves start to rise. You are making me nervous. By the time I reached Ethan's door, Max was trembling. I had never seen him like this before. I knocked. Silence. I knocked again, shifting uneasily as Max whined beside me. I reached for my phone to text Ethan, when the door suddenly creaked open. Ethan stood there, a strange expression on his face. He looked off. His usually neat hair was messy, his eyes shadowed like he had not slept. Hey, I said cautiously. Are you okay? He forced a smile. Yeah, come in. Max growled. I hesitated. Something felt wrong. Ethan stepped aside, waiting for me to enter. I swallowed hard, glancing at Max, who was now stiff as a board. Every instinct in me was telling me to turn around, to leave. But why? This was Ethan. Still, my heart pounded as I slowly stepped inside, Max pressing against my leg like a shield. The door clicked shut behind me. That was when I noticed it. The air smelled strange. Chemical. Off. My stomach turned as I looked around the apartment. Dishes were piled up in the sink. A half-empty bottle of wine sat on the coffee table, and the curtains were drawn tight, making the space feel smaller, darker. Max's growl deepened. Ethan noticed. You really brought the dog? I thought it would help, I said slowly. So he could get used to you. Ethan let out a short laugh. It did not sound right. He is not going to get used to me. Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. Max moved in front of me, his body tense, his hackles raised. That was when I saw it. On the edge of the coffee table, just barely peeking out from under a napkin, was something that made my blood run cold. A small, clear plastic bag, with white powder inside. My breath caught in my throat. I looked up at Ethan, my heart racing. He followed my gaze, then sighed, running a hand through his hair. Damn it, he muttered. I took a step back. Ethan, what is that? He exhaled sharply. It is nothing. Look, I was going to tell you. Tell me what? I could barely get the words out. Ethan rubbed his face, looking suddenly exhausted. It is not a big deal, okay? Just something I do sometimes. To take the edge off. The edge off. The air in the apartment felt suffocating. Max's growl turned into a snarl. Ethan's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. Are you really scared of me right now? I did not know. I had never felt this way before. Not with Ethan. But something about this moment, the tension in the air, the way Max was reacting, it made every instinct in me scream that I needed to leave. I think I should go, I said, my voice shaky. Ethan's jaw tensed. Do not be dramatic. Max barked loud and sharp, his body pressing against my legs. He was trying to push me back toward the door. My hands shook as I reached for the doorknob. I need to go. Ethan stepped forward. Wait! Max snapped. A deep, vicious snarl ripped through the air as Max lunged between us, his teeth bared, his whole body vibrating with rage. Ethan stumbled back, his hands raised. What the hell? He yelled. Max did not back down. He stayed planted in front of me, his chest rising and falling rapidly, his growl rumbling like distant thunder. This was not just jealousy. Max had been trying to protect me all along. My heart pounded as I yanked open the door and backed out, gripping Max's leash with shaking hands. Ethan called after me, but I did not stop. I did not even look back. Something told me that if I had stayed a second longer, I might have regretted it. I practically ran to my car, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Max was right beside me, his body still rigid, his head snapping back every few seconds to check if Ethan was following us. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking as I yanked open the door and climbed inside. Max leapt into the passenger seat before I could even call him. He turned to face Ethan's building, his lips still curled, his chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. I slammed the lock button on my door and gripped the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. Ethan had called after me, but he had not chased me. He had just stood there, watching, his hands clenched at his sides. That look on his face, it had not been anger. It had been something else, something unreadable. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Had I overreacted? Ethan had never been violent, never given me a reason to be afraid of him. And yet, Max had known. He had sensed something long before I did. I reached over and ran my fingers through his fur, my hands still trembling. You knew, did you not? I whispered. He let out a low huff, but he did not take his eyes off the building. I needed to think. I needed to process what had just happened. Without another glance toward Ethan's apartment, I threw the car into reverse and pulled out of the parking lot. By the time I got home, my nerves had settled just enough for me to start doubting myself. Maybe I had misread the situation. Maybe the bag on the table had just been a mistake, a stupid, reckless thing Ethan had done, but not something dangerous. I sat on my couch, Max lying at my feet, watching me carefully. I picked up my phone and opened Ethan's messages. Ethan, you just left. Ethan, are you serious? Ethan, we need to talk. I hesitated before typing. Me. I do not know what to say. That really scared me. A few seconds passed. Then my phone buzzed again. Ethan, you are being dramatic. It is nothing. You know me. That was the problem. I thought I knew him. Before I could respond, another message came in. Ethan, you need to get that dog under control. He almost attacked me. I stared at the screen, something icy crawling up my spine. Max had not almost attacked him. Max had stopped him. That single sentence made my stomach twist. I turned my phone over, my hands clammy. Every part of me was screaming that something was wrong. I had not noticed it before. But looking back, little things about Ethan had never quite added up. How he never talked about his past in detail. How he seemed too smooth, too good at knowing what to say. How, despite his charm, there was always something just a little bit off. And then something else hit me. Ethan had a key to my apartment. I sat up so fast that Max jolted, his ears perking up. I needed to change my locks. Now, I did not sleep that night. Every sound made me flinch. Every shadow in my apartment felt like it was hiding something. Max lay curled against the door, his body still tense. I had my landlord come the next morning to switch out my locks. I did not tell him why. I just said I had lost my spare key and wanted to be safe. Ethan called me twice that day. I let it go to voicemail. I told myself that was the end of it, that I was done. But then 2 nights later, I woke up to Max growling. Low, deep, dangerous. I sat up in bed, my pulse spiking. What is it? I whispered. He was standing by the bedroom door, his body locked in place, his gaze focused on something beyond it. And then I heard it. The faintest sound. The soft creak of floorboards. Inside my apartment. My blood went cold. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, my hands shaking so badly the light wobbled. Nothing. I held my breath listening. The apartment was silent now. No footsteps. No movement. But Max did not relax. He stayed perfectly still, his ears twitching. I did not sleep the rest of the night. By morning, I had convinced myself it had been my imagination. Maybe the apartment settled weirdly. Maybe I was just on edge. But later that afternoon, as I was leaving for work, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The lock on my front door. There were tiny scratches around it, like someone had tried to force it. I backed away slowly, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. This was not paranoia. This was real. And I knew without a doubt that Ethan had been here. I felt like my skin was crawling as I stood there, staring at the scratches around my lock. My breath came in short, shallow gasps, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. Max stood by my side, his body stiff, his eyes flicking back and forth as if he expected someone, to come lunging from the shadows. I forced myself to breathe, think, stay calm. There was no way this was a coincidence. Ethan had a key before, but my locks were changed. So that meant he had tried to get in anyway. I backed away from my own door, my body moving on instinct. I could not stay here. I turned, grabbed my keys, and practically dragged Max to my car. My fingers were trembling so much that I dropped them before finally getting the door open. Max jumped in first, his body still tense, his ears pinned back. I did not even know where I was going. I just needed to get away. I ended up at my friend Lauren's house. She took one look at my face and immediately let me in. What happened? She asked, closing the door behind us. I hesitated. I had not told anyone what was going on, not really. It had all seemed too ridiculous, too paranoid. But standing there, my heart still racing, the image of those scratches burned into my mind, I realized I could not keep this to myself anymore. So I told her everything. From the way Max had always seemed wary of Ethan, to the weird feeling I had in his apartment, to the bag I had seen, and finally, the scratches on my lock. Lauren listened in stunned silence. When I finally finished, she let out a slow breath. Okay, she said carefully. You know this is really, really bad, right? I swallowed hard and nodded. You need to go to the police, she continued. I exhaled sharply, rubbing my face. I do not even know what I would tell them. Hey, my ex-boyfriend might be a drug addict, and also tried to break into my apartment? That does not exactly sound like solid proof. Lauren shook her head. That is not just maybe trying to break in. That is actually trying to break in. You changed your locks and suddenly, there are scratches on your door? He is watching you. He knows where you live. He had a key before, which means he has been in your place alone before, and... She stopped herself, shuddering. I do not even want to think about that. Neither did I. I felt sick. Max whined and pressed his head against my leg. I reached down and scratched behind his ears, the touch grounding me just a little. Lauren was right. I could not just sit on this. I had to do something. The next morning, I went to the police. I kept my report simple, factual. I explained that I had recently ended things with Ethan, that he had previously had a key to my apartment, that I had changed my locks, and now I had clear evidence that someone had tried to tamper with them. The officer listened carefully, taking notes. Do you have any reason to believe he would want to harm you? That was the part that made me hesitate. Because the truth was, I did not know. Ethan had never hurt me. He had never threatened me. He had never even raised his voice at me. But something about the way Max had reacted to him, the way my instincts had screamed at me that night in his apartment. I met the officer's eyes. I do not know, I admitted. But I am scared. That was enough for them to take it seriously. They advised me to file for a restraining order and offered to send a patrol car by my apartment that night, just in case. I felt like I should have been relieved, like I had done something proactive. But as I walked out of the station, my stomach was still twisted in knots. Because this was not over. And I could feel it. That night I did not go home. Lauren let me crash at her place again. And Max seemed just as relieved as I was to be somewhere safe. But even as I lay on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, I could not stop thinking about it. Ethan had tried to get into my apartment. Why? What would have happened if Max had not been there? What would have happened if I had stayed that night at Ethan's apartment? A shiver ran through me. I did not want to know. I never wanted to know. But I had a sinking feeling that I might find out anyway. Because Ethan was not done with me yet. And somehow I knew. This was only the beginning. I did not sleep well that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my brain played out the worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. Ethan breaking into my apartment. Ethan standing over my bed while I slept. Ethan doing things I did not even want to put into words. Max stayed curled up against me, as if he could sense that I was still on edge. His breathing was slow and steady, but his ears twitched at every sound, every distant car door slamming outside. He was as alert as I was. Lauren had offered to let me stay as long as I needed, but I knew I could not live like this, jumping at shadows, waiting for something bad to happen. I had taken steps to protect myself, but it still did not feel real. Not yet. Until the next morning. I woke up to a text from an unknown number. You overreacted. I just wanted to talk. My stomach turned. My breath caught in my throat. It was Ethan. I had blocked his number after filing the police report. But here he was, texting me from a new one. I could feel Max's eyes on me as I gripped my phone tighter, staring at the message. You just wanted to talk. Was that what you were doing when you tried to get into my apartment in the middle of the night? I did not respond. Instead, I took a screenshot and sent it to the officer who had handled my case, along with a simple message. He is still trying to contact me. It was enough. Later that day, I got confirmation that the restraining order had been approved. Ethan was officially banned from coming near me, my home, or my workplace. If he tried anything again, there would be consequences. But somehow it did not feel like enough. I had seen the look in his eyes that night. I had felt the shift. And deep down I knew. Ethan was not the kind of person who gave up easily. A week passed without any more messages. No strange noises. No scratches on my door. No sign of him. I started to breathe again. I still jumped at unexpected sounds. I still double-checked the locks 3 times before bed. But I was starting to feel normal again. Like maybe this nightmare was finally over. Then one night Max woke me up. It was different this time. Not growling, not barking, just a sharp, urgent nudge against my arm. When I sat up groggy and confused, he was already by the door, his body rigid. My heart pounded. I grabbed my phone with one hand, reaching for the baseball bat I had started keeping by my bed with the other. Slowly, I crept toward the peephole. Every muscle in my body tensed. I peered through. The hallway was empty. I let out a slow breath, forcing myself to relax. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe Max had heard something outside, a stray cat or a passing car. Then I saw it. The door handle. It was moving. A slow, careful twist. Whoever was on the other side was trying to be quiet, trying to see if they could get in without waking me up. Adrenaline surged through me. I did not think, I acted. I flipped the deadbolt with a loud clank and shouted, I am calling the police. Max erupted into vicious barking, slamming his body against the door. For a split second, nothing happened. Then footsteps. Fast, retreating footsteps. I ran to my window, just in time to see a shadowy figure disappear down the street. I could not make out his face. But I did not have to. I knew. Ethan. The police came quickly this time. They took it seriously. The officer who had handled my case before was the one who showed up. And the moment I told him what happened, he nodded. We will find him, he said. He is violating the restraining order. That is jail time. I nodded numbly, gripping Max's fur as he leaned against me. They did find him. 2 days later, Ethan was arrested. He had been staying at a cheap motel not far from my place. The police found a lockpicking set in his bag. I could barely breathe when they told me. If I had not woken up, If Max had not been there. I do not let myself finish that thought. Max saved me. Again. It has been a few months now. Ethan is in jail. And I am finally starting to feel safe again. But the thing that sticks with me the most? I almost ignored Max. I almost dismissed his behavior as jealousy, as just a dog acting out. But he knew. He knew before I did. Sometimes, I still wake up in the middle of the night, expecting to hear footsteps in my apartment. But Max is always there, watching over me. And I know. He will never let anything happen to me. Not again. My dog kept acting aggressive toward my boyfriend, and I thought he was just jealous. Turns out, my boyfriend was not who I thought he was. He tried to break into my apartment, and my dog saved me twice. Always trust your dog.